I guess everybody's heard the recession's over, huh? Aren't you happy? Aren't you glad? Do you believe it? You guys think the government lies? Yeah, me too. And most of us have at least a basic understanding of economics, which is why we generally get together. We recognize that big government does not help us, but hurts us when they interfere with the natural order of things. The free market laws of supply and demand drive everything, and we can't make that change by writing something down on a piece of paper any more than we can change the laws of physics by a proclamation. Our economy is nothing more than all of us exchanging goods and services. It's not, we talk about the economy like it's some kind of thing in a building, but it's just all of us exchanging goods and services. And as consumers, we have needs and wants. Well, a lot of people enjoy intoxication. You might not like it, but there has never been a single society in the history of humans that has not used mind-altering drugs. And that's another thing that we are not going to change with the stroke of a pen.
Make it right.
It doesn't have to be your choice, but it will always be the choice of a significant number of people. So what happens now is the government steps in, and through the use of the military and police, they constrict supply. Well, we understand economics, right? You constrict supply, what happens? Price. Price goes up, which increases the incentive for people to get in the drug trade, especially really young people who are willing to take bigger risks, who don't understand the risks they're taking.
Get rid of the pusher.
Get rid of the law.
Big companies, they've created so many barriers to entry in the marketplace, it doesn't leave a lot of room open in the economy for us normal people who can't buy a politician. So, the drug economy is the economy of the poor. They face not a lot of choices. The drug trade provides them with the most gain for the least amount of effort and no taxation, but high risk. So poor people make their decisions based on their risk tolerance, and they will choose the drug trade or welfare. The war on drugs has facilitated a massive increase in the size of government. In 1972, when Nixon first declared war on drugs, there was $101 million allocated. In 2000, the budget was more than $20 million, but you can't really put your finger on this because it's this department, that department, every police station, the military. How do you really figure out how much it costs? This has been our longest and most costly war in the history of the country, and it's a war against our own people.
Secure the border.
According to more than one enforcement agent in this war on drugs, more than half of the expenses related to law enforcement is for drug enforcement. So think about that. This is military spending, federal police, state police, and local policing agencies, all with about half of their budget in drug enforcement, and we all pay for this.
We need a strong military.
But who benefits? Who benefits?
We do.
No ma'am. Politicians benefit. They thump their chest, I'm tough on the big drug war, and they keep their seats way too long by putting fear into people. And who else benefits? Well, the prison industry benefits, that's for sure. They have huge lobbies, big unions. Some prisons in this country even have factories in them to produce products. Well, it's pretty hard for free people to compete with slave labor, but those prisons will keep themselves full of slave labor through our political system and through keeping the public afraid. And you know about confiscation laws, right? I mean, the government, police now budget for confiscation. In their annual budget, they have the amount of money they're going to bring in through confiscations. There are horrible stories. You know, the first thing the police do when they get to your house, they shoot your family pet. Sometimes they find out they're in the wrong place. They take everything you have, which leaves you unable to seek legal advice, unlike someone who commits a lesser crime of murder or rape or child molestation, who are left with their assets intact to defend themselves. And there are even stories that when police get briefed on a raid they're getting ready to do, they'll have property valuation assessments. So I really hate confiscation. I hope you guys really hate confiscation too. Politicians, when they're honest every once in a while and you back them in a corner, sometimes they'll tell you, you know, the war on drugs isn't winnable, but it is eminently fundable. And there's nothing that a government likes more than an excuse to grow. And this is a great one. In the year 2003, we spent $600 per second on the drug war. Now we are up to $1,600 per second on the drug war. And what have we gotten out of it? Another group who benefits are terrorist groups. The best thing we could do to deal a blow to terrorist groups, like the ones in Washington or these guys back here or whoever, is cut their funding. Take away their money. The war on drugs drives the terrorists. This is how they are funded. We have troops in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields now. So if we wanted to strike a blow to the terrorists, ending marijuana prohibition alone would remove 60% of the funding from the drug terrorists. But right now, all of this money stays in the hands of the bad guys. Drug lords, terrorists, and government. And none of that money is used for good purposes in our society the way they would be if that money could stay in the hands of the citizens. So what have we gotten out of the drug war? Bloated government, violence, crystal meth, crack cocaine, corruption, our troops in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields, no-knock warrants at the wrong house. Don't think it can't happen to you. There was a mayor in a town in Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C., whose house got busted into by local law enforcement. First thing they did was kill their dogs, and this guy was the mayor. So don't ever think that it can't be you. We have overcrowded prisons, using slave labor to compete with the regular Americans. We got the Iran-Contra scandal. We can't grow fields of hemp in Kentucky to bring ourselves out of poverty and dependency. We get to pee in a cup to have a job. We have rampant abuse of prescription drugs and no change in the amount of drug use. And we never will have, because you can't change the laws of human nature with the stroke of a pen. Like the economy, the government isn't some tangible thing. It's just a bunch of people, that's all. Just a bunch of people. Corruptible people in high positions with no morals who do things that we can't fathom and we don't want to admit. We must resist the urge to resort to the heavy hand of government to deal with our problems, especially if it's something we merely find distasteful. If it doesn't break your leg or pick your pocket, like Thomas Jefferson said, ain't none of your business. I think 300 million heads are better than one. And I think that when we're left open to solve our own problems, that we find unique and good, real solutions to problems that work. President Obama has said one thing that I agree with so far, and that is that, you know, the Tea Parties are rallying and saying that we must reduce the size of government, but you don't really say much about what we're willing to give up. So I do agree with him on that one point, that we really need to make clear what we're willing to give up. And I'm totally willing to give up the war on drugs. And I'm not the only person saying this. Even Judge Napolitano, Glenn Beck, even Sarah Palin is calling for change in drug policy, especially when it pertains to marijuana. Why are we so afraid for public discussion on this issue? Why is it that there seems to be one and only one answer that is acceptable, and that is to continue to declare war on our own people for acting out their basic human natures? This is a conservative idea. Smaller, less costly government, more decisions for the people, more freedom, a freer economy. I encourage you to remain open-minded so that we can move together and regain our freedoms. And if you don't agree, I would just want to remind you But all you have to agree on is the freedom issue, because I'm sure there's an awful lot of stuff that I don't agree with you on, but I'll support your freedom, and if you support mine, maybe we can all have some. Thanks.